So this is Deutsche Bank, and Deutsche Bank has taken a big tumble this week, and their stock is down 34%. So let's talk about why this is happening and why fears of another bank failure are on the horizon. Well, it's honestly concerning because this isn't some small bank. This isn't your local bank. This bank is a big deal. Let's start off by comparing the sizes of the banks that have already failed and compare it to Deutsche Bank. Silicon Valley Bank has already failed and it has $210 billion of assets. Credit Suisse was real close to failing and that had $534 billion of assets, and that was considered a big bank. But what's concerning is the size of Deutsche Bank, which we have to zoom out because that is 3 times bigger. So that means the consequences if this bank were to fail would be much, much worse, and people would see that in our everyday lives. In fact, this bank is actually the 22nd largest bank in the entire world. And the bank that everyone's freaking out in America that had already failed wasn't even in the top 10 in America. So just the sheer size of this bank is why everyone is completely concerned. If the bank were to fail, that would be disastrous for the whole world. But now, why is the bank failing and should you be concerned about it? And it all comes down to a chain reaction. Like, keep in mind how everyone is on edge right now because of the banks failing. They don't want their money to be lost forever, so they're paying attention and they're maybe a little bit trigger happy. But it really comes down to a chain reaction. So like I was saying, this is kind of a chain reaction that's starting because of the American banks have started to fail, but then the Credit Suisse thing has been happening, so people are just on edge and they're quick to pull their money out. That's why the stock is down 34% in the past month, basically. But like I said, it's kind of a chain reaction. So now that we have Credit Suisse, one of the biggest banks also in the world, on the brink of failure, people kind of have the understanding that these big banks aren't as safe as we first thought. But there's other reasons too alongside that people might want to pull their money out. Let me just go through them really quick. Because Deutsche Bank has a history of, not so great practices. 2007, they agreed to pay $7.2 billion for misleading investors. 2009, the bank was caught in an act of S.5. 2018, they failed. 2005, they were stress test. In 2009, they were. So when everyone has the same mentality and they're all going to the bank to withdraw their money, this is what we call a bank run. Now, the bank run happens because everyone's withdrawing all their same money at the same time. See, the bank has reserves, okay? They have a limited amount of reserves. When you deposit $100 in the bank will hold around $10 or 10% of their customers' accounts is what they should be holding on cash in hand. So when customers come and they deplete all of these reserves, the bank has no more money on hand. So when the next group of customers come to the bank and they want some more money out, the bank has no more money to give them, and this is when the banks fail. So that's what happened here in America, but people are concerned because yes, that did happen here in America, but that happened to a relatively small bank compared to Deutsche Bank. So people are concerned that this could happen to Deutsche Bank, which would be an absolutely crazy world economic problem. Come here. Levi, come. Hey, buddy. Hi. There we go. So this indeed could happen to Deutsche Bank, but there's a couple differences here than Credit Suisse and SVB. See, Deutsche Bank really doesn't have any problems with financials. It's just this contagion mentality that is bringing people to withdraw all their money, and it's kind of giving people the sense that this bank could also fail. But the good news is this bank is probably too big to fail. I mean, it is in the top 25% of the world, so if this bank were to fail, we'd have much bigger problems than just that. So it's realistic that if this bank gets into trouble, that a government's gonna come and bail it out. After all, it's too big to fail. I mean, so this situation isn't as bad as it might seem, and it's not as bad as people might think it is, because Well, recently in 2015, the Deutsche Bank had a restructuring plan where they actually increased their revenues quite a bit. So if you look at their cash flows and their balance sheet, they're not really in a bad position. This is more of just a contagion thing where everyone's thinking the same mentality and everyone's on edge. So this bank financially is pretty much okay. As for what will happen, I don't think anything crazy is going to happen with Deutsche Bank. Deutsche Bank looks to be fine, but it makes you think of what are good options to do here in America, or just what kind of bank you should be banking with. I mean, considering the small banks are failing, I would consider looking at a much bigger bank where your money can be better protected. All in all, just another day of finance. So nothing to be alarmed about, and I will see you in the next one.